Today on Wiki Bros Newscast, we discuss ChatGPT, possible treatment for COVID-19 smell loss, teacher Abby Zwerner, and more. Welcome to Wiki Bros Newscast. I'm Justin.
This is Kyle. And this week, we're going to do a little catch-up. We're a week behind on the newscast, so we're going to bring some new articles in the news this week and a couple that we had saved for last week that we never got to, but we feel, people need to know about.
Sure. So one thing that's kind of interesting, do you remember when we kind of restarted our relations with Cuba?
Yeah.
It was back, like 2015 or
Right.
something?
Right.
And so everything seemed like, life was going to be good. We were, we'd get our cigars and all, right?
Do they still import Cubans?
I don't think so.
I always thought it was like a hard thing to get there for a long time.
Well, you weren't supposed to get them. So, because we had rules against that.
They're still getting in the country because I've seen people with Cubans.
So I really don't have any idea how that works now.
Well, hold on. Before we even go further, why is it a problem to import Cuban cigars?
It was just business with Cuba in general.
Okay, but since we resolved it, it shouldn't be an issue anymore, correct?
Yeah, I would think
Cigar
not.
smokers, please let us know.
Yeah.
I'd like to know if Cuban cigars are hard to get at this point in time.
Yeah, and are they really worth it?
My uncle's a cigar smoker, and he's like all about them.
Well, anyway, so we were over there, and then do you remember that Havana syndrome that happened? It was like 2016, 2017.
Vaguely.
So it started, I guess, apparently it started off with CIA officers.
Oh, okay.
But, they kept it secret. And then it
Imagine that, CIA officers keeping something secret.
Huh? Word kind of got out, though, and then it ended up we shut down our embassy over there.
What were the symptoms of this?
Well, it was like people, it varied person to person. But there was a lot of it. Basically, people would hear like low hums, intense pressure in their skull. Other people just, felt pain in their head. There was if they didn't hear a sound, they felt heat or pressure. But even if they did hear sound, it wasn't it was like internal, right? Like covering their ears did nothing for it. And then people, they started getting dizzy and feeling fatigued for months and stuff like that.
So this wasn't just like the generic flu.
No, this was something new, and nobody really knew where it was coming from. So there was a lot of, people were kind of thinking that maybe it was the Cuban government doing it, and maybe using some form of radio waves or microwaves or something to affect people.
It's kind of far stretched, but I mean, maybe.
Yeah. So
what they determined was the cause.
Who knows?
They never found out.
No, they're still trying to figure out exactly. But it ended up happening around the world.
Okay.
In a few cases here and there, so it wasn't like it was just there, but that's where it was initially at, right? But because of that, and them thinking, hey, what the hell is this government doing to our people? Then we pulled out.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
And then our relations kind of slowed and stuff, right? Well, anyway, point is that now the U.S. Embassy in Cuba resumes visa and consular services. So that's pretty exciting. It's pretty exciting for a lot of Cubans who have relatives over here, too.
Right.
Right? Because, they've been they're just waiting to see their relatives.
Going on 7 years now, right?
Yeah.
Almost 8.
Yep. So anyway, that's kind of exciting. So we'll get back to that, and maybe we can start importing these Cuban cigars.
That's what I'm talking about.
I don't know. We'll see. So also we got this, this big thing that's been going on in the past few weeks with ChatGPT.
I have heard so much about this. I've heard it's people are really split. It is half positive and half negative on their feelings on this. And I get both sides because the technology itself is amazing. You and I viewed a little bit of it off air, and the capabilities that this thing has are quite honestly kind of frightening. You know, and I'm really curious about how it's going to affect things moving forward. I mean, not only for like, you know, we looked at something for like college students on like writing a paper, and the thing would have literally just write a paper for you like on cue as you're putting in information. You could change things. But some of the other things I've read are, you know, people are really worried about the power that this thing could turn into having.
Yeah, I mean, I like just making stories up with the damn thing. Like, it's pretty funny. Yeah, so it's gaining a lot really, really quickly. And, you know, you've got this whole, I guess maybe you would call it a battle between Google and Microsoft with their search engines, but really it's just Microsoft saying, no, don't leave us behind.
You know? Wasn't there something that they're planning on trying to incorporate ChatGPT with Bing?
Yep,
is that their plan?
Yep, that's the plan. And I guess they're saying it'll like be in the back end, and people, you know, won't really even notice that it's there, but it'll be there. So I don't know. Microsoft is so far they're declining to comment on it, but
I'm sure they're going to.
Oh yeah,
I mean, they're going to go forward with this. It's getting a lot of attention.
What
are your personal opinions on AI in general? Does it scare you at all?
It doesn't scare me.
Really?
No.
You need to watch more Terminator movies then.
I watched iRobot.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's kind of.
But no, it doesn't really scare me. The thing that all of this information that, like, even on, you know, we talked about Twitter with Elon Musk. You know, my thoughts on him getting Twitter so that he can use all of that for his AI.
Right.
Right. But that's still stuff that people have said. Right. It's still based on humans.
Well, even then, though, it's like Elon's even stated this with him even toying with AI. That he's actually he is kind of he's an odd guy. He's very, very intelligent, but he is a little bit, you know, kind of an oddball. But like even he has came out publicly and stated that his concern for mankind was you know, the effects that AI was going to have on us, and not necessarily from like a military perspective, but you know, the amount of jobs that can be taken over by this type of introduction into the workplace. I mean, you think of how much this can impact, you know, just humans on a daily basis, long term, and I know nothing ever seems to progress as quickly as we think it's going to. You know, I can't speak today.
Yes,
technologically speaking, but. You know, I remember seeing things in the 1950s where we were going to have like flying cars in like the 1990s, and I'm still waiting on a hoverboard, guys. Just one hoverboard.
Wait a minute. So in 1950s, you saw something?
No, they used to do like those trade shows and stuff back in the 50s. Have you ever seen those?
Oh, so I see.
They would do like the future cities.
I thought you
and like
no,
not me specifically.
And I see.
You got me. But anyway, there's trade shows. You know, they always thought things were like 20, 30 years off on how fast things were going to progress. And it never seems to work out that way.
Right.
So it could still be another 100 years before we have to worry about AI taking over, you know.
Until somebody has to worry about it, but not me. So
yeah, you'll be dead then, huh? You got another 40 years, and that might be it. You gonna make it to 80?
I think I can probably do 80. I hope so. Okay. I have full plans of retiring at 60. And
to get 20 good years, huh?
Well, I'll get 20 years. I don't.
Hey, by then, you know, maybe if this AI is moving, you don't have to do anything at home. Whole house will be automated.
Dude, I'm going to be so rich after this next lottery drawing.
I knew you were going to bring it. I saw it this morning, and I knew it was going to be brought up. You're still eyeing that island, huh?
Yes. And you can't blame me.
Fine. I'll go buy one ticket. Right. I hate the lottery, but I'll go buy one ticket that would just in case.
Just in case.
How many do you generally buy when you go and buy them?
I only buy when it gets big.
Which oddly, though, you have less of a chance when it gets big. Yes.
You have the exact same 292.
Well, it's still
1 and 292 or something
awful.
Like that.
No, because like way more people come out and buy tickets.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't change the amount of numbers that are drawn.
I guess what it changes if you have to share the pot, but
right. That's a possibility.
Yeah, which I mean, at what is it, like 1.1 billion now?
Yes,
Something
or
crazy.
1.3 now, I think is what it's going to be.
I think I can split it with somebody.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
No? All right.
I mean, you can split it with me.
That's
but
yeah, that's fine.
I am greedy, and I want it all.
You just want your island.
Yeah, but my island's only going to cost 17. Well, actually, if I get that much, I might upgrade my island.
It's like 17 million is like pocket change at that point.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, I'm still doing the annuity, right? So.
Oh well, yeah.
So I'm probably only going to get like 15 million my first year. So.
Oh, you're doing the payout. You're doing the slow payout versus no.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't take that. They've proven like that you make more money up front.
I'm just saying I don't feel comfortable with myself not screwing up after I've seen all these other lottery winners screw up. I want my insurance of every single year for the next 29 years. I'm getting another check just in case I screw up and go bankrupt. Right?
But you could turn around and make more money off the money that you're getting.
Or I could lose it all.
Well, I mean, historically speaking, that's been the case with a lot of individuals that get this kind of money.
So
I mean, if you can't survive off of $15 million a year, something's wrong.
Right. And the thing is it's going to be 15 million the first year, but my second year it's probably going to be about 20 million. And
man, you're rough life. You're really slumming it there.
All right, so hopefully that works well for Microsoft, and they can give Google a little bit of competition. I don't know.
I would encourage people to go out and check out the ChatGPT website and play around with it just to see the capabilities that it has. I'm already seeing this turn into a huge issue with college professors on how they're going to prove
a lot of them have banned the use of it.
How can you prove it?
No. I mean, like as far as schools, not college, but as far as high schools
and
elementaries and stuff, they have banned the use of it over their network.
Well, and that's fine,
so
but like no student, like you can't monitor this at home.
No. But all right, so here's the deal: a lot of the students have, whether they're at school using their network or they're at home, a lot of them are using school provided laptops or tablets or whatever. Right. So they have it banned on there. So the other ones the other kids that have the ability to use their own computers at home or something like that, sure. But as far as being at school,
that works from a high school perspective. But the second you hit college, the colleges are handing you their own personal laptops.
No, I get it. I'm just saying, that they're taking steps. Education is taking steps to ban this because of the. Like normal, they're going to be way behind the curve on this, and this is going to turn into like a bunch of the AIs writing papers for these kids, and I mean you can literally have it cite your work for you. Yeah,
I mean it's everything. It will create the entire story. I'm really kind of amazed at it, but it's gonna make a lot of people lazy. Is what it's gonna do.
I love it. I think it's awesome, and I like how I ask it to write me a story about blah blah blah. Right. And then when it gives me this crazy little 3-page story or whatever, and then I don't like something in it, so it gives you black hair, and I want you to have blonde hair. So I'm like, hey, change this hair to blonde, and then it gives me the story again.
So some of the issues I've read online with people that are frustrated with it is the fact that it can create content, like even for like social media websites, and it's going to like automate a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But man, I'm telling you, the long-term effects that this is going to have when people really use the full capability of this is going to be kind of frightening. But we'll see. We'll keep tabs on it. I'm kind of curious to see how it plays out the next few years.
Mm-hmm. So moving on, we've got this. Man, this is fun.
Fun?
Oh yeah, it's great.
Okay.
So the 1968 film Romeo and Juliet.
Okay.
I
was forced to watch that in high school, I believe, or maybe middle school. No, maybe it was
it might have been a different one.
We watched one or two of them. It was either the new one with Leonardo DiCaprio or the old one. I can't remember which one.
I don't even know if that's the new one. Have they? I feel like they made another one since then. Maybe
it wouldn't surprise me.
Dude, that one was good. I mean,
it was a neat take on it.
Yeah, it was very neat. The way, like when they had like long sword on this gun, right?
Yeah,
So, that was neat.
It's a more modern take on the,
right.
So
anyway, the point of this is that two of these actors in this film, they're teenagers in this time, right?
Right.
The hussy who's 15 and I don't know if it's Whiting, whatever.
Did you just call her a hussy?
Her name is
Oh,
Olivia
sorry,
Hussey, and
sorry.
Leonard Whiting or Whiting, I believe. He's 16. Okay?
These are the two main actors, right? This is basically Romeo
that's
and Juliet.
Juliet is Hussey, and Romeo's that Leonard dude.
Okay.
All right. So anyway, I guess there is a little bit of nudity in this.
I don't remember back that far.
Yeah,
I've seen this before, but
so
it's
like
been so long.
I think it like shows his bare ass and maybe her chest, and
so they're going for this is an underage issue basically.
yes, and they say okay, so according to the complaint, they've suffered mental anguish and emotional distress.
Aren't
in
these
the
people like 70?
Oh yeah, well it's been 55 years since the film's released, and they may have lost out on job opportunities, Kyle. Yeah.
No.
Oh, yes. They're seeking damages believed to be in excess of $500 million.
Like, okay. So a couple of different points on this.
Mm-hmm.
One, putting the nudity in the film with the underage kids was wrong, period. But that's been signed off on by multiple people. But more concerning, it was signed off by their parents. Because they were underage, they could not give their own consent, correct? So the fact that their parents were involved and were okay with the situation, and the only way they could get around this is if they claimed that the parents had no involvement with the filming or that the parents weren't aware of the nudity.
I really don't know what the rules were like for that sort of thing in.
Well, I mean, back then this was very.
I mean, people were married.
This is very risky.
13-year-olds.
They were, but like as far as film goes, this is very, I would say, quote, risque for U.S. filmmaking at the time. Now, European films probably was more normal, but still, like it's still underage nudity, which, I don't care what time you're at, like it's still inappropriate. But the fact that you're gonna wait 60 years and then trying to file a lawsuit against it, it's. Shouldn't there be a statute of limitations on this kind of stuff at a certain point?
So on this, absolutely, because this chick says, in 2018, she did an interview and they talked about this nude scene, right? And she's like, yeah, nobody my age had done that before. But the filmmaker, that Zeffirelli or whatever, he shot it tastefully.
So she's even supporting.
It was needed for the film, she says. Right? Yeah.
That quote right there is going to bite her in the butt when they go to court because you're condoning it yourself, and you went this long saying that there's no problem with it. And I do agree. I don't think that this should have happened during the filmmaking, but and this is why you see a lot of movies these days. They will film underage, like teenagers, but they're using like 20-year-olds to play teenagers just because they can get away with the nudity that way. But I would be interested to see like how involved the parents were in this situation, but to wait that long, I mean, right now at this point, it just feels like it's a money grab, right? Like you sat here, went on the record to state that this was done tastefully, and I was really proud of this.
It gets better.
Okay.
She says it wasn't that big of a deal, and Leonard wasn't shy at all. Yeah. She says in the middle of shooting, I just completely forgot I didn't have clothes on.
Okay. Well, it's not looking good for them.
No.
I feel like they've been encouraged by their family to do this.
Yeah, because their family, they're not winning the lottery. They want $5.
No, they want the money to carry forward to their kids and grandkids. Is what they're doing.
Yep.
Did they act in any other movies?
No
you'd have to look at their IMDb to see if they were, how their acting career played out after that. But
yeah, I have no idea. I don't know. Maybe I should look it up. It doesn't really matter. I've never heard of them before. But, I mean, they're old, right?
Well, I mean, now. But there's a lot of actors you can see they've had, like, full-on careers. They might have not been in, like, major motion pictures, but they could have been on TV or something for the last 30 years.
So, finally, after 14 unsuccessful votes on the 15th ballot, then McCarthy finally clinches the leadership role.
Okay.
So, how this went down, he basically had 20 or so holdouts that weren't voting for him.
Right.
And then, they kept having their, little conversations back and forth, looking for certain things,
Right.
right? How the House is run and so on. And finally, I believe there were 6 of them that just voted present, along with all the rest of the Republicans voting for McCarthy, and that gave them enough votes to secure the leader.
Now he's funny against the auditor situation, isn't he? The IRS auditor situation.
Okay, well, so yes, and good for the Republicans on this. They passed their first bill, and that was basically to cut the funding for the 87,000 IRS agents that are supposed to be hired here,
Right.
and they're all supposed to have guns. Remember?
Wait.
Remember we
Wait,
talked about this.
I know. I know. It cracks me up that the Democrats want them to have guns.
Oh yeah, well they just want the IRS.
They just want the money.
Yeah. So anyway, so they passed that bill easily, so that's kind of fun. I mean, it's never going to make it through Senate, but it's fun that the House did something finally.
Right. It's great to see them, trying to collect every penny they can so we can hand it off to another foreign country.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Hey, it's funny. I sent you something the other day on that situation with Ukraine that we brought up about how much, we posed the question on how much we funded other countries, either exploits or their wars versus every other country that's in, our group, our alliance group. And it was astounding. I believe it was like something like it was in the billions compared to like maybe a couple million for some of the the highest level competing countries. It was kind of frightening on how much we've actually given away to some of these countries. It just and then they're sitting here wanting to collect more money. Well, stop giving it away.
Yes.
I'm all for support, but it should be done equally.
Yes, I agree to an extent. I mean, if you went percentage wise.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the problem is, with most of this stuff too, is like if they're going to collect this money and it's going to be used internally to like correct our issues in the States, I would have a lot less problem with it. But the fact that they're giving it away, every day, just hand over foot to these people is it's astonishing when we have so many things we need to handle here in the States.
Yes, and we need to, I mean, okay.
I
understand that there's a need for the U.S. to be involved in some other country's affairs, right? But we get involved in every other country's affairs and throw money out there. I mean, whether we're just giving them money or we're spending the money sending our troops over there and our equipment over there, or, I mean, whatever the case is, we're just throwing our money away all the time. Meanwhile, our national debt is...
Yeah, and that's my point. It's not like we're in a surplus. If you're in a surplus and you want to help people, fine. Like, we are in trillions upon trillions in debt. And then you look at something like the U.S. where you've got homeless veterans around the United States, and it's like, okay, this money could be applied a lot better within our own network here rather than handing it off when we don't have it to give to begin with. I mean, we're just printing more money to just give away at this point.
Throwing it away. So here's a neat one, and I didn't realize this was an issue, but the need that we have for honeybees.
Yeah.
Right?
It's there's been a huge die-off of them the last several years.
I always saw these things about, like save the bees, cool. Meaning I okay. I feel a little ignorant now because I took that as, like, hey, stop spraying the honeybees with your, wasp killer or whatever.
Right.
And stuff like this. I didn't realize that it was such a big deal, but apparently they've been getting, different illnesses, bacterial illnesses and stuff, and it's killing them off. So the U.S. approved the world's first vaccine for honeybees.
Interesting. So how do you administer the vaccine?
Well, they put it into this, and I don't know much about honeybees. I watched some chick on Joe Rogan one day.
Okay.
And my wife follows her on TikTok or whatever. So when I was telling her about it, she knew who she was. I don't know who she is, but she's very smart. She's all about these bees. Anyway, so apparently the queen eats some, I don't know, whatever. It's royal jelly.
Okay.
Okay, that's fed to her from the the worker bees.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, they're injecting this royal jelly with this stuff, right? And so basically, it's giving her immunity, and it's going, it goes on to all of the new bees that are
Oh,
produced from her.
good.
Yeah. So
Well, I will say, my dad's like a big
bee guy.
yeah, he really is. He's done it his whole life. He's got the full bee suit and everything. Like he raises bees and makes his own honey and everything as well. But he's ran into this multiple times where he's had some of these hives just suddenly just die off, out of nowhere, like no reason. It wasn't
Right.
cold. There was nothing that got into it, and then you just walk, and then they're just gone. And I don't know what his particular cases were, but it's probably something very similar to this disease that's going around. Another odd event he had with the bees that we had one time that I'll have to do some research on this and bring it up in another episode. But he had actually placed the bees. We've got some power lines that run through my parents' property on their farm, and he had placed these beehives down there underneath these power lines. And the bees kept flying and leaving the hive repeatedly and coming up closer to the house and like swarming on limbs up by the house. He put them back 2 or 3 times, and they continued to leave the hive. So something that was emanating from the power lines, it was messing with the bees, and they kept leaving as well. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. Not related to the vaccination, but just from a
This as far as this disease, it's called American foul brood disease.
okay.
But it said the only treatment method requires burning the colony of infected bees along with the hives and equipment and treating nearby colonies with antibiotics. So
Interesting.
So if they get this, you burn them, and then you're not saving the bees.
No, you're making. Well, I mean, I guess they're trying to prevent the spreading of it, but it's like then
Yeah.
you're just losing more bees in itself. So it's really nice to see they've actually done something to
Yeah.
try and protect them. I mean, because they are very valuable.
Yeah, that's kind of neat.
Except for hornets, you can kill those things. Like
Oh.
every last one of those.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
I got
yeah.
stung so many times
In
this year.
fact, get rid of all of those little wasp type creatures besides the bees.
The yellow jackets are the worst.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Hey, so anybody that's that had COVID-19 that still can't smell?
I know people who couldn't smell for a couple, like maybe for like a year or two. The people that I know that had problems with it, it did finally come back, but it took a long time.
I mean, I know a couple people that still can't smell very well at all, and they had it at the beginning.
Huh.
So it's I know it's affecting people differently, but anyway, the point is there's this doctor, Zara Patel.
Mm-hmm.
So she's coming up with something that potentially could help that smell loss.
Oh, that'd be excellent for the people who still haven't got theirs back.
Yeah, so it has something to do with platelets and like platelet-rich plasma, right?
Right.
And the regenerative properties that it has.
And
And
didn't you say initially they used this for carpal tunnel?
yeah, that's right. Yeah. And so they've developed some sort of nasal spray, and I don't know. I mean, it's the trial so far. There was 26 participants.
That's it?
Yeah, I mean, it's initial, right? So I'm sure we'll see more on it. But initially, right now, there was 26 participants, and those who received the treatment were 12 and a half times more likely to improve than the ones who got the placebo.
Oh, okay. I wonder what the percentage is of people that lost their smell long term or permanently is. Because
Well-
I had no issue with smell like whatsoever. My smell never went away when I caught it. I've had COVID twice.
15% of people who experienced smell loss from COVID-19 continued to have problems 6 months later. So
Oh, okay.
I don't know how much longer than that.
Good stat to have ready when I ask a question.
Yeah. So here's another one. So back in 1987,
Okay.
I believe it was, we had this little Montreal pact is what it was. God, I wish I could remember what it was. I should have written this down somewhere. But anyway, basically, it was when all these countries got together and said, "Hey, we're gonna chill with our ozone depleting properties that we have of like the aerosol cans and stuff."
Yeah.
The what was it, hydrochlorofluoro or something? Fluoro.
You get the word in front of you. I can't read it.
Gosh dang it. I don't know. Well, anyway, chlorofluorocarbons. Yes.
Okay.
Remember, because you get those aerosol cans and they'd have the CFCs and there would be the little sign around it, like the
right
crossing it out or whatever. So anyway, because of that, they do like a test on it. However the hell you test the ozone, I have no idea, but they test it like every 4 years, and they're saying that within the next couple decades, it'll be back to like 1980s level.
Oh wow! So it's actually having an effect, like long term.
Yeah. So it's kind of neat. It was the Montreal Protocol of 1987 is what it was. There's 198 countries that agreed to ban the use of those ozone-depleting substances.
Good.
So that's kind of cool, I guess. Chlorofluorocarbons.
For those who didn't believe in the ozone, we've got some proof now.
Yeah.
It's actually we actually were the cause of the problems.
Well, I mean, somewhat.
Well, I mean, clearly, if the chemicals we were producing
right
was
causing
an issue.
It's chlorofluorocarbons.
Oh, hey.
I'm glad I have it on the scroll.
I like the little newsreel you added to this. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of neat. Now, we're on to our last one that we'll talk about today.
Okay.
So this 6-year-old kid, man.
Yeah, I read a little bit on this.
Gosh dang. 6-year-old uses the mom's gun and shoots the teacher.
I don't understand how, one, the kids are getting access to the guns to begin with, and two, how they're getting into the schools. I don't understand why any school does not have tight security with how frequent these school shootings are these days. I don't know why they don't have scanners for everybody when they come in the buildings. I don't care if you're a small town. Like, you should still have a police officer in the building at all times checking through these things. There's no reason you don't.
And I believe probably most of the schools do have some sort of resource officer.
I would hope.
That's not a metal detector. That's not
right. Why not have every door, your main doors have it has to be scanned in. I don't care if it takes an extra 10 minutes to get you in the building.
Because then if the government paid for that, the government wouldn't be able to pay for Ukraine.
Okay, see, my point being, use this auditing money to put metal detectors in the schools. Nobody will complain.
Yeah. So yeah, this teacher, her name's Abby Zwerner, and this little 6-year-old kid. Man, we just talked about this with that teenager the other day, and they're like how they don't understand the ramifications. Their brain has not developed enough to really understand what they're doing. And how do you handle this? This is insane. A 6-year-old, and it was completely malicious, man. It wasn't like it was an accident, like, oh, they were playing with the gun went off. The kid pulled the gun out, aimed it at his teacher, and pulled the trigger. And then it gets worse. Well, okay, it doesn't get worse. That's as bad as it can get, I guess. But it goes on to show that it was not accidental at all, as after the fact, that child is being restrained in the hallway by another employee at the school.
Mm-hmm.
And as the officers are arriving, that child is like striking that teacher or janitor, or I don't know. It's a staff member of some sort.
Right.
Like hitting them. Ah, man. Teacher is recovering. Thank God.
Right.
That she did not die from this.
Where'd she get shot at?
Well, so as the child pulls the gun out and points it at her,
she like pulls back into like a defensive position, right? So the bullet goes through her hand that she's holding up, and then into her upper chest.
Okay.
What do you do with that?
Man, it's tough because it's like, do you hold the parent responsible?
The parent will be held responsible, absolutely.
Right. I mean, because the kid should not have had any type of easy access to the gun to begin with, and the fact that they were able to get it that easy is kind of scary.
I don't know how they got access to it. I don't know where the gun was kept. I can't.
Kids, I can't.
Well, you gotta say that even if it was in a lockbox, right? I've got a lockbox for handguns that has a keypad on it, right?
Right. But why would your 6-year-old know the code to the keypad?
I'm telling you, these kids these days, you see it with the technology that they have in front of them all the time, and they're smart. They're so much smarter with this stuff than we were when we were younger. And I even as young as 6, if I don't know that that's the situation. I'm thinking about my own situation. I know when my kids were that young, I know that they know the number sequence that I use for everything because I use it for everything. So if that was the same sort of scenario, they pick a 4-digit number and they know this number because it's their Wi-Fi password or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that that's the case. I'm just saying that that's a potential. But no matter how you slice it, we know for sure. We know this parent's going to be charged. The family's essentially torn apart now, right? I don't know if there's I know it's the mom's gun. I don't know if there's a father involved in the life of this child or not.
Right.
Or if there's any siblings. I really don't know that much of it. But I'm just saying that the mom is going to face charges. The mom is probably going to spend time in jail.
I'm curious on what type of charges that they will bring up on the mom. You can't pass off attempted murder charges or manslaughter charges. I wouldn't think, but I'm curious what the actual charges they can, whether it's negligence or.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, she's gonna get the book thrown at her for this, even though she didn't do it herself. I mean, there was definitely precautions that could have been taken that would have stopped this, but.
And that's why it's so damned important to lock up your firearms out of the reach of small children.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's one thing when you have no small children in your house.
Right.
You can have them in every nook and cranny imaginable. But if you're going to have a small child in your house like that, they've got to be locked away because anything can happen. Accidental, purposely, as this was the case. Apparently, it wasn't a kid thinking he had a toy gun. It was the real deal.
He knew what he was doing.
But the problem is that, like we talked about, the kids do not have the mental capacity to understand the ramifications of what they're doing.
I mean, wasn't it just a month ago we talked about the 10-year-old that shot his mom over a PlayStation or an Xbox or something like that?
Yeah,
and then
he VR headset, I think is what it was.
And then he ordered it online with her card after he shot her. It's like, you don't, like, how do you handle something like that? Because clearly there's something wrong with the child to think that that's okay. But is that the child's fault, or is that the upbringing, the parents? Like, there's a lot of factors that play into that, and it's hard to know who to, I wouldn't say punish, but who to hold accountable for that.
Sure. Yep. Yeah, it's a pretty messed up situation. I couldn't even begin to try and take a guess at what they're going to do with this.
Yeah. We should check back on this story in a few months just to see what charges are brought up on this. We always like read the initial happenings of these stories when they break, but I would be interested to see in 6 months on what happened in these two incidents when it comes to the kids and when it comes to the parents on, what were the repercussions for this?
Right.
Because people need to be aware. It's like, well, actually, this isn't even the first instance. We had another one also, where the dad signed off on the son's gun.
Well, that was
He was of age, but
yeah, he just was under 21. That was the Highland Park shooter.
Right. But he, that kid was clearly mentally unstable.
Yeah, that's not even a kid.
No, you're an adult at that point.
Yeah,
that's on
an
you.
Adult.
That's
on
you.
A different thing.
Even then, they were punishing the dad for signing off on there. So it's is that right? Like, should that happen because he signed off on a gun? Now, after us just looking at the guy, clearly I wouldn't have signed off on that myself. But he was a guy. He looked like Willy Wonka. Like, clearly had some mental instability there. But like, as a parent, like, are you seeing past that mental instability? With that person. So
probably.
I don't know. I would really like to follow up on these down the road and just kind of see what the consequences were, because it's just sad. It's a sad situation.
Yep, I agree completely. And I mean, I'm a big gun guy.
Right. But you're smart with your guns, and you taught your kids to be smart with them. It's like, even locking them up. I mean, even if you have the ID pad, I mean, maybe you should have a handprint pad you have to use, or a thumbprint versus the numbers. And I mean, people argue, well, what if that messes up and you have to get the gun out? I mean, I get that, but then maybe that should be placed in somewhere where the kid cannot have an easily accessible path to it. Like, how did a 6-year-old get this out? I would really like to know the details of it.
Yep. I don't know. It's pretty messed up situation, but you were talking about the kids being smart, right?
Right.
With the guns. So a while back, I took my son to the doctor.
Okay.
God, I want to say it was for something like a physical.
Your eldest or your youngest?
My oldest.
Okay.
It was, I think it was for a physical, I think. God, I can't remember now, but it was something minor anyway. It was no big deal. It was,
right.
But he had to have like this is the first time he's gone to this doctor.
Yeah.
So they got to do their little initial, questionnaire and all this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the questions they came out of that was, do you have guns in the house? The fuck?
The doctor asked you that?
Yes. Asked him that.
Huh.
I was sitting there.
It's an odd question from a doctor.
Yeah.
What was the reasoning for the question?
I have no idea. But, he said, yeah. And she goes, do you know about gun safety? And he said, yeah. And she's like, well, what about it? He goes,
that's weird.
What'd he say? Keep your finger off the trigger. Keep it on safe until you're ready to fire. And she's like, and he just looks around, and she goes, don't mess with guns without permission. And he's like, well, yeah, like that was obviously, you know what I mean? I'm in shock. I am in complete fucking shock over there. I couldn't even say anything. And finally, she left, and then the nurse came back in. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck is that?
Right.
And she goes, what? And I said, why are they asking my son if there's guns in the house? None of your goddamn business.
Well, for one, it's for a physical. First, it's like, this isn't a police officer asking you. This is a doctor. What does it have anything to do with your job on whether or not you have guns in the house?
She said that, that nurse girl, she goes, I have no idea. We're supposed to, she's like, I never ask people that. We're supposed to. I don't.
Why? Why are they supposed to?
I have no idea. But now it's in his record that I have guns in my house.
I feel like they're kind of tracking whether or not who has guns and who doesn't. It feels almost like something's pushed on by the government.
I mean,
that's odd. I'll have to ask my I've got a lot of family members that are in the medical field. I'll have to ask a few of them if it's something that they're, my mom specifically is a nurse, and so is both of my sisters. But I'll have to ask them if they're told that they're supposed to ask that as well. I'm kind of curious. I've never been asked that in any doctor's appointment I've ever been to, at any hospital, at any regular doctor's visit. Not once.
Right.
That's really unusual.
So anyway, that's the end of our newscast for today. I just wanted to bring that up because I was like, what the fuck?
No, it's kind of a a neat story to tell. 'Cause that's a very unusual occurrence. And I mean, what do you even say to that? I mean, I don't know.
Well,
you were calm about it. It was like I don't even know if it was asked to me if I would even be calm. I would stay calm, but I don't know that I would even advise them to answer the question. It's like it's none of your business. For one, I'm here for a medical reason, nothing to do with what I have in my house. It's none of your business.
And had I not been completely caught off guard on this, that would have been my response.
Right.
Or we would have just packed up and left and we'd have gone to a different doctor.
Well, and at first it's like you don't know if the doctor's like joking around or if it's like, because you get some of them, they're always like trying to bring up random conversations, but it's like, okay, well, do you have any drugs in the house? Well, no. Well, do you know about, drug safety and stuff they teach at school? But it's like, that's still very odd coming from for a physical for that to happen. I can't imagine. Since we're sharing stories, and we have a few minutes here, I'll go on.
Sure.
Back to the bee conversation.
Bees.
Okay. So this summer, I was out working. Did you have any
bees? Careful.
No, thanks. Nice. Well, yeah, exactly. I needed to be careful this summer because I don't know how many you ran into. I ran into so many yellow jacket nests and wasps nests this summer. I got stung so many times. Now, granted, I was working around a lot of like old trees and stuff as well. But 2 times in particular, we had to kill thousands of yellow jackets. Yellow jackets are really bad. They like to burrow holes in the ground, and their nests are in the ground. And they like to pick places where, it can be anywhere.
Yeah.
I had a burn pile at a house I was working at, and we were lighting a fire, and these things just started flying out, like hundreds and hundreds of these things, like crazy.
Would you expect them to stay?
Well, no. I'm saying I was caught off guard by the volume. Luckily, my dad noticed that he got stung several times and was able to get away and kind of wave us off. But and we had to.
Luckily, my dad got stung a lot. So
no. I'm saying that we didn't nobody died over it. It still was terrible. So we ended up having them removed. Well, then later, I was cutting down a tree over at my dad's, and there was this little brush pile that had been sitting there for, I don't know, a few years. And we were cutting up some of the logs for firewood. And I've got my chainsaw running, and I've got my my headset on to block the sound out, and I wear headphones inside of my headgear so that it just blocks all the sound out, right? All of a sudden I see something I'm sitting there cutting, and something hits my back, and I'm like, limb drop on me? What the hell's going on? I turn around, and my mom's back there with this stick, and she's throwing sticks at me, and I'm like, and of course I'm instantly mad. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you throwing stuff at me? I'm like, what? I turn around, I'm screaming. I'm like, what are you doing? And she's just waving her hands like this. So I slowly and casually just walk over to her and start taking my headset off, and she's like, there's yellow jackets all over you. And I look down, I'm covered. She's completely covered because they followed me over. We take off running across the yard, and I'm wiping them off her back because luckily I've got all this chainsaw gear on, so I'm pretty well covered except for my face. But what it was ripping them off of her and me. I bet we got stung probably 30 times a piece. But yeah, man, it was a rough summer for bees.
So moral of the story: don't wear ear protection.
Yes, it's kind of counterintuitive, right? I mean, maybe I should,
or maybe pay attention to your surroundings. How about that one?
I didn't see the bees. I mean, hey, I asked Mama. She was like, when she comes over there, she was like, "I'm sorry, I threw a stick at you," but it was the only way to get your attention. It's I get it, but man, it's kind of brutal.
She'll throw more sticks at you.
She might.
Hey, so that's all we got. We've got a few things coming up. We kind of discussed last time. We got some different things planned for this year. So we're still working through that. Well, you got a new sticker. I mean,
yeah, that's pretty cool.
How cool is that?
Maybe some format changes, some topics changes.
Yep. So stay tuned for all that. For Wiki Bros, I'm Justin.
This is Kyle.
And we'll see you soon.